So I grew up in Missoula. There was zero focus on agriculture growing up. The most I grew was a tomato plant in my mom's garden, and I was bored with that. In high school, did a senior project my senior year about starting a business. And so I chose to start a commercial cleaning company as my project to get out of high school. And, use that to pay for college and continue to grow it. So fast forward 20 years later, sold that company and allowed me to get into something I really thought I would enjoy in farming. So my experience was very limited in farming, but my knowledge in chemistry and more in the cleaning side, or the organic cleaning and killing microbes, was, the knowledge base that I had and developed in my earlier career. Have a mold remediation company, and we use peroxyacetic acid to sterilize living organisms. And over time, I started to see the benefits of what was happening with biology, right? That this small percentage was causing health problems in people's houses, but there was so much more beneficial out there, and started focusing on them. What are they doing? Why are they here? What's their purpose? And the realization was that they were responsible for most of these operations that happen in agriculture that we don't see. Everything's subsurface. You can waste a lot of money farming, like a lot of money. And you have to set some parameters and some limits on where you're going to go and to find your success. And that was a hard part because I'm new to it. It's everybody's trying to sell you something, a new shiny tractor, a new application method, a new kind of compost. In reality, if you just base it on what Mother Nature did prior to us coming here and manipulating the systems of Mother Nature, it's really easy to see where you're going to get the best results. Plants grow with four things. You need sunlight, you need mineral, you need water, and you need CO2. Find ways to enhance those and you'll grow. Well, how are we going to add mineral? Well, the benefit of biology, unlocking that mineral in the soil, really helps with that side of it. How are we going to increase water? Well, are we retaining as much water as we can, or is there some organic material that can be added to our soil to help that sponge hold more moisture? Are we leaving enough litter in the field for CO2 production? Are we doing everything we can? Are we planting in the right place to prevent shading and get sunlight to our plants? Common sense questions, but everybody overthinks it. It's not that hard. I'd started composting a few years before we started Grass Valley Farms. I just was doing it at home, and I didn't know the quality of my compost. I didn't know what I was making, but I knew that when I applied this to a plant, it tended to grow better. And so I chose to learn as much as I could about making compost. Took the Soil Food Web school courses, tried to research, read books on anybody that was in composting, and come up with a plan. A lot of the original motivation was because of the exorbitant cost of fertilizer. I got this place and I had 6 months to figure out how to make it make money. And try to do that without a significant investment in infrastructure. And so how do you do that? Do you continue going down the rabbit hole of application of conventional fertilizers, or do you try to build something more resilient and that can be sustainable over the long term? And everything pointed to biological farming and letting biology release the nutrients in the soil for your plants rather than supplying your plants with those nutrients that all come at a cost, and that cost, of course, is dollars and then potential degradation to your land. We make compost initially in what I would call like Dr. Elaine's hot compost method. So putting it in, rotating it through 3 times, getting full heating through, and then once that's completed, we store everything for a period of time in the Johnson soup bioreactor method. So in our barn right now, we have 3 years worth of compost, and we're using it for different purposes. So our newest compost that's a year old, which is a pretty balanced compost, 1-to-1 fungal to bacterial, but we use that compost for seed inoculation. in-furrow application, things that we're doing that are going in the ground now. We do a lot of bale grazing on the ranch, and so one of the issues we had was, how do we get rid of this chaff or leftover hay material in our hay fields that we need production to come right back as soon as the weather changes? And so we have a very fungal dominated compost that we apply to that. And what we found is that's a really easy way to clean up your fields in the springtime. And so we'll do heavy applications of a fungal dominated compost for that specific reason. And then we're able to clean the field. So the third one we keep is stuff that's been around 3 years, and the reason for it is it's super carbon dense. And so if we have an area that needs more carbon in it, then we'll apply it that way. So movement to compost is expensive, and to do an effective job in your fielding, it's really hard to sprinkle a small amount of compost and get it evenly distributed across your field. And it takes a lot of it to make it noticeable. But when you make an extract and you suspend this biology in a liquid form, it gives you a lot more options on how to get it in the field. It's really the only way to do it. Your applications are even, equipment is smaller and cheaper. Applying dry compost to a field is difficult, and it's just expensive to move. I mean, what is diesel fuel, like $5 a gallon here? And I don't know what it is other parts of the country, but that's 3 times more expensive than when I started farming. And it just doesn't pay to be burning diesel fuel. So we've got to figure out ways to still get the biology in, but do it significantly cheaper. The biology is very important, but it's easier to manipulate a plant's production than it is to manipulate a soil's production. And so when I started looking at, okay, well, maybe I could start making some biofertilizers to get a little bit more nitrogen or a little bit more of this in an organic way into my plants, which will then in turn release more root exudates and feed more of the biology that I'm putting in the soil. And this year, I think I can attribute the success and the increases that we've seen and just production success this year to that, being able to analyze the plant, doing plant sap analysis, taking that information, which is actionable data, and doing something about it. And these, biofertilizers that we're making, I think are really helping us get across that hump. Because it takes time to build biology. It's not something that you quit conventional farming methods cold turkey and all of a sudden 15 minutes later, like, your plants are happy that they did that. That's not the case. Your plants go through changes, your soil goes through changes, and you have to know, I'm not going to say this, you don't have to know everything, but you at least have to know how to observe. And if you see something that's detrimental, well, maybe you change the practice. But if you spend time, like I do, reading every book you can find, you're eventually going to get the right answer. It's just how bad do you want to look for it. We were applying a lot of extract to our pivot, and I wasn't seeing the results in the soil that I expected, right? I took the soil food web school, and I realized that when we had biocomplete compost and I applied it 2 to 4 pounds an acre, that I should expect to see 16 million bacteria per square foot. So if I took a little soil sample, I should be able to identify that. I should have 8 million fungal spores or equivalent biomass. And when I did, I was like less than 7% of those numbers. And I said, something isn't right here. Where are we losing it? Where is it dying? What's happening? Is it I'm getting it on the soil and I don't have food for it, so we're not seeing anything until later? Or if I put some sugar with it, is that going to benefit? Or if I put some fish to it, is that going to benefit? And what I realized is that we lose a lot just in sunlight and the outside environmental factors. Biology that's supposed to be in the soil isn't designed to be applied not in the soil. And so we developed an aeration system where, as we drove over, we would drip our extract into the holes produced by the aerator. Well, when I looked at it in the next day, roughly 90% of the biology I was applying was visible to me on a microscope. We go 3 days later, now we have food sources in soil, I see an improvement. So I know that I'm making an impact in that particular area that we aerated because I know it has food in it, I know it has new biology in it, and we've oxidized that soil, or at least added oxygen to it. Now, is that 100% the right answer? No, but I saw a result that allowed me to make action from that. Once I saw that, I knew that, okay, I have protozoal reproduction in the soil. This is exactly what I need to see. Some things we're excited about specifically is increases in soil organic matter. It's fact that increases in soil organic matter increase water retention. From year 1 in 2021 to year 2, 22, to now going through the third growing season of 23, we have used 25% decrease in water. We had some rains in late August this year that we don't get them until September. So that's a big benefit. And we had heavy rain in June, so we weren't irrigating in June. But most of our pivots only ran twice through July and early August, and then that corresponded with cutting times. So that's one thing that we're seeing is just a decrease in the use or the amount of water that we need. And what it's allowed us to do is actually put more land in production. Stuff that wasn't irrigated before, that we couldn't irrigate because we only have a limited, system that can only support so much movement of water. We have changed our cutting. So typically we would take 2 cuttings of hay, one when the rain stopped towards the end of June, and then the other, early September, and get 2 good cuttings of hay and then leave the remainder for fall grazing. And this year we changed. We decided to do some haylage production, and so we cut the last week of May this year and went through all of our irrigated fields and cut hay, and then did our second cut, the second week of July, and we're just completed. Actually, all of our hay is off the field as of today for our third cut. It's the first time that I've been here that we've taken 3 cuts of hay, and really good cuts of hay. I mean, production last year was up about 30% over 2021, and this year we're going to be at least 30% better. It's allowed us to increase the size of our cattle herd and still support our hay customers that we sell to, and of course added new customers this year. Owned land, we have 700 acres. And of that, about 460 is in irrigated production. We lease 1,200 to the north of us, that's all dry land. And we have another 400 due west of us, another 400 down on the river bottom that we hay and graze cattle on. And then another 200 to the far west for a total just shy, I think it's like 3,390. Everything is either in animal or hay production. Our dry land stuff, we only take 1 cut. We leave the rest to either go to seed, and we cut specifically for control of weed, or we'll graze it during the growing season. And that benefits because we're getting the fertilizer from the animals put back down. But we run, as of today, just under 200 head of cattle. We sell beef direct to the consumer, off the ranch farmers markets. We also run a pork operation. Majority of our hay is sold to customers near us. I think it's silly that you ship hay somewhere else, to a foreign country or to another state even. I mean, I think we have plenty of animals to feed close by. There's no reason to ship it. But I do believe that a nutrient-dense feed is superior. So I would say 90% of our customers are within 2 miles of our ranch, and primarily are feeding horses. In all operations, you got to have a cash crop, and you invest in something that's going to provide the income to sustain the rest of the operation, at least until you get everything up and running. And so the first thing I did was put in a sod farm because I knew there was a demand. There's nothing around us. During COVID, we were building, Montana was a hot place to be, and we had 0 housing, just like most rural areas in the United States. And so I said, okay, there's going to be a boom in housing. I think there's an opportunity for us to grow some grass for when these houses get completed. So we started growing sod. We started harvesting it last fall and growing it without chemicals. So when we started, we applied some granular fertilizer, and just because that's what I was told you had to do. So I went in, planted Kentucky bluegrass, and now we have some sod that we're harvesting and selling. And one of the benefits of that is we're growing it regeneratively. We are taking, when we harvest the grass, we take very little. And the benefit of having sod is that as we mow that all the time, we're adding new carbon to it. And so we're building humus up in that upper layer of our sod. So when we're harvesting, really the only thing we're taking is a thatch layer with some root in it. So not losing much soil at all. We're putting that out into people's houses, so that's our economic income from it. But we're also selling a service of continuing to treat this yard organically and regeneratively like we're growing the sod. And so that gives us an extra income stream that for something that we're already doing. We have the infrastructure in place to produce the extract and the biofertilizers that we're making anyway. Let's get them out on the sod and try to bring in more income doing something we already do for our own land. So that's turned into a pretty interesting opportunity for us. The other thing too is, I was thinking of ways that we could benefit by not taking all of the grass that we produce every year on the ranch. And that led us to explore the opportunities in hunting. And so we run now a pheasant hunting operation on the ranch that we have people out every day hunting pheasants. And what that's allowed us is income on our grass that's still standing. We produce hay and we cut it and we sell it. Well, now we have a place for birds to hide and hunters to come out and try to find those birds. And so we're collecting money on keeping that grass growing. And to me, it was, what is the benefit? Or can we get an economic benefit by not taking everything from the soil that it produces for us? And it was an idea, and so far it's, nobody looks at it in that context. It's take all the hay and then what's left we'll give a row for someone to hunt, and they don't do it to the best of their ability. Well, what we found now is people come out and they absolutely love it. Wow, you have so many different kinds of cover and you have different terrain and there's grass everywhere. It's difficult to find birds, but we know they're in there. And so seeing that feedback, it gives us just another income stream off of something that, was waste for us. And the other benefit is it allows me to keep people employed in the wintertime. It gives them a job to do when the only thing we're doing is feeding cows and pushing snow. Look at what nature is doing around you, in your environment, in your context. Ask yourself the question, how much water do we get? How many days do we have over 80 degrees? How many days do we have over 90? What is the length of our growing season? It's like I'm in Montana, can I grow bananas? No, you can't, right? Well, what is my most beneficial crop? What can I do consistently? Is it a perennial or an annual? Is it, what do I have a market for? And ask yourself some of those questions, because those common sense questions are things that you're not going to be able to change, right? That's just you. These are the ropes that are put up around you, and you're going to fight in this ring. And so make the best of it. Put the best plan together for success in that area. And then outside of that, you can start to manipulate some of the things that you have, your water, your mineral, your biology. And, do I need livestock? Can I handle livestock? Will livestock benefit my operation? Ask yourself those questions and you will lead yourself to a way. But I think it fundamentally comes down to, if you can mimic Mother Nature, you can be successful. And Mother Nature does some crazy things. I mean, she brings hurricanes and tornadoes, and all of those things are for a purpose. They're changing the dynamic of what's growing. If sometimes you're growing corn for 6 years in a row, and Mother Nature says, sorry, but we're going to put some big hail down there to knock down your whole crop because we would prefer that this crop stays in the soil this year rather than you take it off and sell it off this land. I mean, there's a purpose for everything. Think about how to build something resilient and then prepare for those bad years. Build in drought resilience to your operation now, not in 3 years when the drought shows up. You'll be thanking yourself for doing that 3 years ago when we actually do have a drought. My favorite part of my day is 8 o'clock in the morning we do a class. And it's nothing complicated. It's, show them the biology, the compost that we're making, how we make it, and then taking a sample of that and putting it on a microscope and showing people this is a nematode. These are things that we didn't see in our soil before we started this process, and now they're everywhere. This is protozoa, this is bacteria, this is fungal, this is how you determine what's good and bad. No one has ever left a class saying that they wish they would get that hour back in their life. They're all, that's the coolest thing that I've done in a long time, thank you so much. People don't realize how open farmers are. Everybody thinks, wow, it's, what is that guy doing on the other side of the fence and why is he getting that result? And I don't want to tell him why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not at all that. We help each other out, and the farming community is so exciting because of the relationships that you build with your neighbor. Not all are great. You may have cows get into somebody's field and wreck something, but for the most part, people are really eager and happy to share with you. Successes especially, they don't want you to know about your failures. I guess the place that my mind went was the density of nutrition that we can pack into food. I think that's my number one reason for doing it. I've been a fairly fit person my whole life. I think it's because I'm pretty active. I play hockey. You got to stay active and stay outside, but there's more to it than that. There's a lot of bad things that are in our food supply chain that end up inside of our bodies. And the science and the data suggests that a lot of it has to do with chemicals that we're exposed to in the food that we buy at the grocery store. And so, all of us have an unhealthy vice, but if you consistently can try to eat something that's a little more nutritionally dense, the benefit is your body gets a mineral, but you're not having to eat excess calories to get that mineral that your body needs. And, after learning about this and studying it and now practicing it, I feel like a totally different person. I don't, when I was working really hard and busy all the time, fast food was the option. It's just pack it in, eat as quick as you can, you gotta get back to work. And now it's like, carry a bag of carrots in the tractor and you can eat them slow. Or, I eat probably way more jerky than I should. My salt intake is probably way too high. But I feel better because I'm getting beef that comes from the farm that I'm eating fresh every day. And I think, my number one reason and motivation to continue to do this every day is just, how good can I make it? Is there a top to this exponential increase? And yeah, there definitely is. But, will I find it in my lifetime? I don't know. We're just going to keep going that direction and see where it takes us.